Hi, Savannah.
Hi, Stuart.
How are you?
I'm doing good, and I had all a smiley face because when you read the book, I mean, everyone should read the book, I mentioned that earlier, is you have so much love for observing, and it's not just music. And I mean, I know you told me earlier when you're sick, this is what you do, but I think it's a very special gift you have there to, like, even, you know, her purple trousers and, you know, the way people are dressed. I know you like flower dresses, I could tell that in the book. And so I have some questions for you. What was the inspiration behind writing the book?
I think I get asked this a lot, and I answer a different answer every time. The thing is, this room is full of creative people, and what is your main inspiration for making anything is that you just want to do it. Some people would say, I remember, telling my mum, well, before she passed away, I was saying, I'm writing a book, and she said, oh, how could you do that? I was, thinking of, a whole book, and a few years ago I would think, well, how could you do that? How could you write a whole book? But I must have just got to the stage, I got to the right time where I was like, okay, I'm ready to write a book, and I just sat down, and I just really enjoyed it. You have to be led by what you love to do. And
before COVID, I have never heard about the CFS, or like you say in the UK, ME, and because of COVID, I know a lot of people had, let's say, phases, but how long did you really were stuck at home, and when did it start to feel a little bit better?
So I started with ME at the end of the 80s, and if the lowest was here, and this is the timeline, I was like this for about 7 years, and the band got together, and I got a little bit better, and then I had a few years, and then I got a little bit better, and then that's now. I'm kind of like back down a bit, but so it's been up and down for that whole time.
In the book, there are, let's say, 3 characters: Stephen, Richard, whom Stephen shares his roommate, and Carrie, and all 3 suffer from ME, and then the guys get the idea, let's go to the US, let's go to California, because in wintertime it's so much sunnier, and there were also hopes that in the US they had found a cure for ME. So why did this occur?
Yeah, no, good question. This was all before the internet. If it had been a few years later, Richard and I, the two characters, could have gone on the computer and said, do they have a cure for ME in California? And it would have said, not yet. And that would have been trip over, finished. But instead, I sold all my records, and we took this huge risk to go to California, because we figured that, in California, they came up with a skateboard, and they kind of do everything first in California, and we figured that they would know better, but that was part of the reason. Another reason was we were trying to escape the Scottish winter, because we couldn't get warm because we moved so slowly, and that was part of the thing. So we took a big risk and our savings, and we went to California for 3 months. But the nice thing about these pre-internet days, when you didn't know what was going to happen from day to day, you couldn't really plan things. Richard's character met his wife-to-be at the first ME meeting.
Justine.
Yeah, so they're in real life, they're still in Sacramento, and they're doing great. So it kind of, it was a very consequential trip. It sort of changed our lives a little bit.
And for me, knowing Glasgow a bit, knowing San Francisco and San Diego a bit, it's like when you love Scotland, the music scene, and Glasgow, and you read the book, it's like, oh my God, you know, I want to be there in the West End right now. Was it also because you lived Glasgow? Why did you choose Glasgow to be so prominent in the book?
Well, when we had this condition, we couldn't, we just didn't move very much. So, you know, when I was fit, I used to get around all over the place, but we were constrained to almost like our postcode area, just like a 1 square mile of Glasgow, and so it was really just everything in the first half of the book takes place between our apartment and Carrie's apartment, which was, you know, about 10 minutes walk, and so we just really moved very slowly, and that's why I kept it in that area. I did that deliberately.
It's nice for us because we learn a lot about the West End, and also there was the question. I have some questions here, and it's all about how music shaped your life, and what was the meaning for you, music being ill, and then also, I mean, because there's a very nice scene in the book where actually Richard gives you his guitar, and then I was so amazed that you figured out, because he didn't tell you, how to play C and G, and I was like, well, how did you do that on your own?
Well, he wouldn't. He was he was a rough teacher. Because when we went to California, I didn't have the piano anymore, and he took his guitar, and so he said, well, you can play the piano, so you can figure it out yourself, you know. I think he maybe showed me 1 chord, and then, you know, but that's all I needed. I actually just needed 2 chords to start writing my first guitar song. But I was so into music, you know, in the 80s, and but I couldn't write a song. I tried to write a song, I could never write a song. And it wasn't actually until I got ill that when I gave everything up. You know, I gave even friends, and I was back living with my mum and dad. And I guess there was just, when you don't have anything going on, everything is quiet in your mind. It's too quiet. But that's when I went to the piano, and then I suddenly realized I could hear a song. And so, you know, I wrote my first song, and then it became so important to me. I was like, okay, I can do this, you know, this is something I can do. And, you know, it was almost like a consolation for being so unwell. It was the one thing that I was holding on to.